Jimmy Kimmel finally goes off last night, and Jimmy Kimmel, again, has become sort of the all-heart representative of all leftist causes. So a couple of weeks ago, we broke down in detail his lecture on healthcare reform, which was similarly based not on facts but on emotions. Last night, he did a long shtick about gun control that was entirely based on emotion, and it was really nasty. It was really nasty. I don't mean it was nasty because he doesn't care. He cares. It's really nasty because he's suggesting that you and I don't care. It doesn't matter that you lost sleep last night and I lost sleep last night because of what happened. It doesn't matter that we're all heartbroken over what happened. We don't agree with Jimmy Kimmel's evidenceless suggestions about gun control. That means that we don't care. We're bad people. You want to know why the country is not unified? It's because of stuff like this. It's not because we disagree on policy. We've been disagreeing about policy forever. It's because there are certain people in the American public discourse who feel it necessary to impute bad motives to people who disagree. And that's what Kimmel's doing here. So here's Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to go through his entire lecture. So here he starts off ripping into Americans who disagree.
Well, hello, everyone. Here we are again in the aftermath of another terrible, inexplicable, shocking, and painful tragedy, this time in Las Vegas, which happens to be my hometown and Cleto's hometown, Cleto Sr.'s hometown. And as you know, at least 59 people are dead. Hundreds of people were wounded in what they say was the deadliest mass shooting in modern American history, coming about a year and a half after the previous deadliest mass shooting in modern American history in Orlando, where 49 people lost their lives. And of course, we pray for the victims and for their families and friends, and we wonder why, even though there's probably no way to ever know why a human being would do something like this to other human beings who are at a concert, having fun and listening to music. Jason Aldean was on stage. Luke Combs, who was here with us tonight, he played the show too, and obviously no one could have ever expected that something terrible would happen, but it did. A very sick person smuggled 17 guns into his hotel room and smashed out the windows, started firing indiscriminately from the 32nd floor into a crowd of 22,000 people across the street. And as a result of that, this morning, we have children without parents and fathers without sons, mothers without daughters. We lost 2 police officers. We lost a nurse from Tennessee.
Okay, so all of this is true. All of this is fine, right? Everything that he's saying here is true. All of it. We all feel the same thing, right? We're all feeling this. Okay, it's not a matter of him grasping the emotion and nobody else getting the emotion. We're all feeling this. Some of us show it more on the surface than others, but what he is saying is obviously true. But what's going to be nasty is when he swivels this and then he uses it as a club to beat his political opponents on gun control, which happens momentarily here. From
a local school here in Manhattan Beach, and it's the kind of thing that it makes you want to throw up or give up. It's too much to even process. All these devastated families who now have to live with this pain forever because one person with a violent and insane voice in his head managed to stockpile a collection of high-powered rifles and use them to shoot people. The guy was an accountant. He had no criminal record. His brother, who lives in Florida, seems totally shocked, genuinely dumbfounded. He said he saw no sign of any of this. The owner of the store that sold the killer some of the rifles said he passed the government-mandated background check when he was in the store.
Let's pass it right there for a second. He's giving all the facts. What do these facts suggest? He passed a government-mandated background check, no history of mental illness. His brother didn't know anything was wrong with him. What exactly would stop something like this? Right, short of full gun confiscation, which is really what the left wants, and we'll talk about the possibility of that in a second. Short of that, which no one on the left will admit they want, but they actually do want. You know, they protest every time you say this. If you say the left wants full-scale gun confiscation, Hillary Clinton will tell you no, Joe Biden will tell you no. But short of full-scale gun confiscation, what exactly would Jimmy Kimmel do in a situation like this? He's going to spell out a bunch of policies that have nothing to do with what actually happened in Vegas now.
Wasn't on any watch list. Didn't seem to have been a religious or political extremist. Came out of nowhere, and because of that, because there weren't any of the usual signs, you know, I've been reading comments from people who say this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. But I disagree with that intensely, because of course there's something we can do about it. There are a lot of things we can do about it, but we don't, which is interesting because when someone with a beard attacks us, we tap phones, we invoke travel bans, we build walls, we take every possible precaution to make sure it doesn't happen again. But when an American buys a gun and kills other Americans, then there's nothing we can do about that.
Okay, so pause it right there. So Charles Cook over at National Review makes a fantastic point about this, which is Kimmel's now undercutting his own case, right? Because Kimmel opposes all those things. He opposes travel bans, he opposes walls, he opposes phone tapping. I don't assume that he doesn't care about terrorism. I'm sure he does. He just disagrees about the policy. So why can't he grant us the same sort of credibility? We care about what happened in Vegas. We just disagree on the policy. Beyond that, the fact is that when you're talking about somebody who's a foreigner coming into the United States and murdering people, that person does not have the same rights that you or I do as American citizens. So the sort of measures that we have available to us to stop them are different than the sort of measures available to us to stop American citizens who are using freedom in evil ways in order to harm other people. Okay, Kimmel continues.
Second Amendment, I guess, our forefathers wanted us to have AK-47s, is the argument, I assume. Orlando, Newtown, Aurora, San Bernardino, every one of these shootings, the murder used automatic or semi-automatic rifles, which are not weapons you use for self-defense. They're weapons designed to kill.
Okay, not true. Okay, so number one, the founders would have wanted us to have AR-15s because the fact is that back in the day, all the weapons that people had were military-grade weapons, right? A musket was a military-grade weapon. Now, AR-15s aren't even military-grade. Yesterday, as I said, I made the mistake about comparing basically an M16, which has burst fire capacity, with a civilian AR, right? That's not correct. I was wrong about that. Civilian guns are very different from military-issue guns. For him to say that the Second Amendment doesn't cover things like AR-15s, a semi-automatic rifle, is akin to me saying that the First Amendment doesn't cover TV because the founders had never seen a TV, wouldn't know what it looked like, and don't understand how it works. It's just a silly argument. As far as the idea that ARs are not used for home defense, again, asinine. I have a bunch of friends who use ARs for home defense. You can find stories. A.W.R. Hawkins over at Breitbart has a good roundup of people who have used ARs for defense, for self-defense. It happens on a relatively frequent basis. Okay, but again, you wouldn't expect Jimmy Kimmel to know all of this because here is where the left's version of common sense means they have to be completely disconnected from the facts.
Large numbers of people in the shortest possible amount of time. And this guy reportedly had 10 of them in his room, apparently legally. At least some of them were there legally. Why is that allowed? I don't know why our so-called leaders continue to allow this to happen. Or maybe a better question, why do we continue to let them to allow it to happen? 5 people got shot in Lawrence, Kansas last night. 3 of them died. It didn't even make a blip because this is just a regular part of our lives now. And you know what will happen? We'll pray for Las Vegas. Some of us will get motivated. Some of us won't get motivated. The bills will be written. They'll be watered down. They'll fail. The NRA will smother it all with money. And over time, we'll get distracted. We'll move on to the next thing. And then it will happen again and again. And last night...
Okay, stop it there for a second. So, again, what he's saying here is also not true. When he says the NRA is going to smother it in money, the NRA is not among the top dozen spenders in the American political system. The NRA does not give a lot of money to politicians. The NRA is a very powerful force because there are millions of people who are members. Millions of people. Right? The reason the American people are not willing to elect representatives to repeal some of their Second Amendment rights is because we're not willing to do that, not because the NRA is bribing people. It's amazing. Democrats never make this argument about unions that give tons of cash to Democrats, that unions are bribing people, but they make this argument about the NRA that is actively not bribing people.